please let me know through email or leaving a comment below. I'm happy to help. Other than that, keep working hard, keep studying hard. Let's get to our questions. Question 1. Margaret will occasionally ask her parents for snacks and water when she is hungry and thirsty. If her parents wanted Margaret to ask for what she wanted more often and more consistently, which of the following interventions should they attempt first? Okay, so a different way to phrase maybe a reinforcement punishment question. Margaret is trying to communicate. Her parents want her to communicate more. So they want that behavior to do what? They want that behavior to increase. So when we want a behavior to increase, what should we always try first? Should we try reinforcement, punishment, extinction, or tact training? Well, tact training is labeling. Okay, so that's not what we're looking for here. We're looking for mandings, for request. Extinction, we're not trying to get rid of any sort of behavior. We want our behavior to increase. Punishment, of course, is always going to decrease a behavior. So if parents want Margaret to ask for what she wants more often and more consistently, they should attempt to use reinforcement before anything else. That's just a general rule in ABA. We want to try reinforcement before we try anything else, including punishment, because reinforcement will teach what we want them to do. So again, parents should try reinforcement first. Question 2, John will take trips to Wendy's with his RBT. The RBT works on ordering food and paying for meals. John can now order food for himself, but he often orders in an inappropriate way. If John's RBT wanted to teach John a behavior that serves the same function as ordering food, but cannot occur at the same time as the current behavior, what intervention should the RBT use? Okay, so again, a little different way to phrase a differential reinforcement question. So if you've been studying along with me for a while now, if you've got our study materials, okay, you should identify some of the key words here, okay, that are going to lead you towards the right answer. If you're new to the RBT exam, don't worry, differential reinforcement can be tricky at first, but you'll get to it, okay? You'll get it. All it takes is a little practice. So what is our question asking? Start there. Our question wants to know, how can we teach a behavior that serves the same function but doesn't occur at the same time as the behavior that we're trying to reduce? Okay, and so that's a dead giveaway. Remember, what's our sequence when we're dealing with differential reinforcement questions? Start with DRO. Okay, ask yourself, are we reinforcing for a behavior not occurring, or are we teaching a replacement behavior? Well, we're teaching a replacement behavior here, so DRO is never going to be the answer. If you're teaching a replacement behavior, DRO cannot be the answer. DRH, you don't need to know DRH for your RBT exam. Okay, that's for the BCBAs and the BCBA exam. So we have our DRA and DRI, which are teaching replacement behaviors. A DRA, right, is an alternative behavior where we're teaching a behavior that can occur at the same time as our old behavior. What's so special about the DRI? Well, that's incompatible behavior, right? With the DRI, we're teaching behaviors that can't occur at the same time as the behavior that we're putting on extinction or that we're trying to get rid of. That's exactly what John's looking for, right? We want the behavior that serves the same function as ordering food, but it cannot occur at the same time as the current unfunctional inappropriate behavior. So John should use a DRI procedure, differential reinforcement of incompatible behaviors. Again, with differential reinforcement questions, just break them down step by step, okay? It just takes practice with those. It's one of the harder concepts on the RBT exam. With practice, you will get it. Question 3, Jordan Jefferson caught 4 touchdowns against Oklahoma in the college football playoffs. All 4 touchdowns were caught in the first half, which lasted 30 minutes. At what rate did Jefferson catch his touchdowns? Okay, so a rate question. What is rate? Rate is frequency over time. So it's just frequency with the time component. So start with your frequency. What is our frequency? What is our count? How many? Well, we have 4, okay? So we know 4 is our frequency. What is our time component? Well, we have 30 minutes, okay? So how can we write that? Well, we can write it 4 touchdowns per 30 minutes, okay? Frequency over time. That's our answer here, 4 touchdowns per 30 minutes. But do we have more answers, or is there a better answer? Remember, on the RBT exam, read all the answer choices. You're looking for the best answer. So 4 touchdowns per 30 minutes is one way to do it. But what if we reduce that or simplify that? Well, we can reduce it down to what? 2 touchdowns per 15 minutes. We can go even further, right? With 1 touchdown per 7.5 minutes. So at what rate did Jefferson catch his touchdowns? Well, he caught 1 touchdown every 7.5 minutes. He caught 2 touchdowns every 15 minutes. And then overall, he got 4 touchdowns per 30 minutes. So at what rate did he catch it? That would be D, all the above. Okay, so remember, rate, frequency, divided by time. On the exam, read all of your answer choices, find the best answer. Okay, that's what they're looking for, the best answer. Your clinic held their annual trunk or treat celebration last week. All of your clients showed up in costume. You took several pictures with them that night. Once you got home, you decided you would share these pictures on social media. Is this acceptable behavior? Okay, so social media has kind of changed the game here as far as sharing information about clients, right? Things to remember, we're still protected by privacy laws, HIPAA, okay, the BCBAs ethical code, and your company code. So posting pictures of your clients on social media, okay, is a protected thing, right? It needs to be managed very carefully, okay? Some families don't want people to know their NABA. Some families don't want their children on the internet and their private lives out there. Totally understandable, right? So you got home in this scenario and you decided you would share these pictures on social media. Is this acceptable behavior? Well, let's see. Yes, they agreed to the picture, so you can choose to do whatever you want with it. That's not true, right? That they might have agreed to take the picture with you, okay, because you already know them, but they are still protected by privacy laws, okay? Whatever your company ethical code is, your company policy is, and of course the BCB code, okay? So just because you have that picture doesn't mean you can go and share it with everybody else. We should always keep our clients private. B, yes, there are no rules against social media posts to clients. Again, not true, okay? Our ethical code says we should avoid social media posts, okay? Don't do it unless, right? No, unless you were given explicit consent from the client and the company. Yes, okay? So unless there is explicitly stated reasons for you to post this picture on social media, okay, you should avoid doing so. So C looks like our answer. Let's look at D. No, you can never post pictures of clients on social media no matter what. Not necessarily, okay? Remember, with ethical questions, you want a strong answer, but you don't want a question that or an answer that's too strong, okay? So a never, right? You can never post clients. And then you don't want one that's too weak. So our best answer here is no, you cannot post those pictures on social media unless you are given explicit consent from the client and the company. Your BCBA identifies a self-help skill to increase for your client. The BCBA asks you to observe them perform the task and write down each step as they do it. What are you participating in? Okay, so a definition question described or disguised as a scenario question, right? So pretty easy, I think, on the exam. After you've done all your studying and when you're ready to take the exam, this is a 15, 20-second question. One, you answer very quickly and move on. Okay, what are you doing in this scenario? You are helping your BCBA, okay, watching your BCBA perform a task, and then you're writing down every step as they do it. What are we trying to create? We're trying to create a task chain. Okay, we have a self-help skill. We're creating the task chain to teach our client what is the process of creating the task chain called. Is it a forward chain, a backwards chain, or a total task chain? Well, that's the actual intervention, okay? But the actual act of creating that task chain is called a task analysis. Breaking down a complex skill into steps, into a sequence, okay? And then chaining them together is called a task analysis, okay? And then the BCBA doing the task, since it's self-help, we can assume the BCBA is proficient, okay? So this is an acceptable way to do it. You're just there assisting and forming the task analysis. Once the task analysis is complete and you have your task chain, then you will choose with the BCBA what chaining procedure we're going to use. So again, task analysis comes first. We create our task chain, and then our intervention, a forward, backwards, or total task chain, is what we use to teach that task chain. When evaluating graphs in ABA, we look for changes in the data highlighted by some key components. Which of the following is not something you would look for when graphing and evaluating graphs? Okay, so on the exam, you might have 3, 4, or 5 graphing questions. You don't need to be scared of the graphing questions. If you're worried about the graphing questions, check out my graphing video. Okay, it's got everything you need to know. But for the most part, it's going to be very basic questions. What's on the x-axis? What's on the y-axis? What's a baseline? What's a data path? Okay, we use a line graph, and then they might ask you, okay, about some components of that data. So in ABA, when we have a graph, we use visual analysis, okay, to analyze the data that we've graphed, okay, and we're looking for certain components. So what are some key components we need when we're analyzing a graph? So we have our data paths, and we're looking for certain things. This question says, which of the following is not something you would look for? Very careful with the not questions, okay? When they have the not, it means 3 of your answer choices are correct, right? And only 1 is wrong. Okay, so let's look. What are some key components of a graph? Are we looking for trend? Yes, we want to know which way is the behavior moving. Is it trending up? Is it trending down? Is there no trend? Very important, okay? So trend is certainly a component you would look for. What about variability? Do we want to know how much our data is changing from measurement to measurement? Yes, variability is also important, right? Is it stable? Is it unstable? What is our variability? What about reliability? Well, data reliability is important. However, it does not have to do with analyzing a graph, okay? We're not looking for reliability when we're looking at data on a graph. Reliability is just data in general. We want reliable data, but it has nothing to do with our graph. So that leaves us level. Yes, you want to look at how the level changes once you've got 2 different data paths going. So again, key components you look for when analyzing a graph: trend, variability, and level, okay? Reliability is not one of those. Check out my graphing video on my channel. It's got everything you need to know about ABA graphing. You're hosting Thanksgiving dinner at your house this year for your family. You send out a group text to try and figure out what foods you should serve. You have a list of 10 items that you send one at a time. Each time you send an item, you ask your family to respond if they like it or not. What best describes this type of preference assessment? Okay, so we have a few tips, right, we give out for taking the exam. Read all of your answer choices, of course. Understand why the wrong answers are incorrect, okay? And then on the exam, they're going to give you little tidbits in the question, okay, that are going to guide you towards the right answer. Remember, they're never going to give you a question without enough information to answer it, okay? So on this particular one, right, we obviously see it's a preference assessment question. So how do we start when we're looking at preference assessment questions? We ask ourselves, how many stimuli are we assessing at once? Okay, what do I mean by that? Well, on our preference assessment, we're either assessing 1 stimuli or 1 stimulus, 2 stimuli, or 3 or more stimuli at a time, okay? So if we're assessing 1 stimulus, okay, it's a single choice. If we're assessing 2 stimuli, it's forced choice. If we're assessing 3 or more stimuli, it's going to be some sort of multiple stimulus. In this scenario, how many stimuli are we assessing at once? Well, it says you send out a group text to figure out what food you want to serve. You have a list of 10 items that you send one at a time. Dead giveaway, this is a single choice preference assessment, okay? Once you get really good at the exam, you're going to start picking up on these little bits of information in the questions, okay? And you're going to start answering these very, very rapidly, okay? People who have used our materials, who've studied with us, they tell us they often finish with 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes remaining, okay? They've gotten so good at the exam that they can go through it very quickly. Now, that being said, initially when you're studying, speed is not the object, okay? Speed is not important. You want to make sure you're getting the answers right. Speed will come as you practice. Which of the following would be the best way to follow a most to least prompting procedure? Okay, so we have prompting styles, we have a most to least, where we start with the most intrusive. We have a least to most, where we start with the least intrusive prompt. Okay. And this question wants to know, out of these 4 answer choices, what's the best way to do a most to least prompting procedure? So for this question, you need to know the prompt hierarchy. Now, there's a little debate on the order of the prompt hierarchy, and of course, it's kid dependent, right? But for an ABA, full physical is always going to be the most intrusive prompt. Okay, so if you had your prompt hierarchy, if you had a triangle, right, full physical will always be at the top, followed by partial physical, followed by modeling. Okay, so those 3 will always be in that order, most to least. Okay, and then we'll have gestural. Okay, and then we'll have verbal and visual and verbal. Okay, depending on you ask, but for the most part, it's going to go full physical, most, partial physical, modeling, gestural, then visual, verbal, right? So in this scenario, they want to know most to least. So all you need to do is walk down your prompt hierarchy. So all 4 answer choices start with full physical. Good. Okay. Let's look at A. Full physical, gestural, verbal, partial physical. What's wrong here? Well, we know partial physical is more intrusive than both gestural and verbal. So this would not be the best most to least procedure. Full physical, gestural, partial physical, verbal. Again, same issue. Partial physical is more intrusive than gestural. Can't be the procedure. What about full physical, modeling, gestural? Sure, right? According to our prompt hierarchy, where it goes full physical, partial physical, modeling, gestural, this would be an appropriate most to least procedure. C looks like our answer. Let's check out D. Full physical, modeling, partial physical. Again, partial physical is more intrusive than modeling. Okay, not going to work. So our answer here is C. If you wanted to strengthen a new behavior that you are teaching using discrete trial teaching, which of the following schedules would you most likely use? All right, so what schedules do we use to strengthen behaviors? We use continuous reinforcement. We use FR1s. What schedules do we use to maintain and generalize behaviors? We use VRs, FRs, okay, FIs. And you can see that this question has the same answer twice, but irregardless, right? This is a super simple question, so it doesn't even matter because you shouldn't even be thinking about anything except continuous reinforcement. When you're thinking strengthen a new behavior, okay? When you're thinking strengthen a new behavior, you're thinking continuous reinforcement, you're thinking FR1s, okay? So if you're using DTT, you want to strengthen a new behavior. CRF, okay, FR1 is the schedule you would go to. Finally, Trista received a makeup kit for her birthday. Her mom told her she can use that kit whenever she wants, but she is not allowed to touch her mom's makeup. Yesterday, Trista took her mom's lipstick without permission, so her mom took away Trista's kit. Trista no longer steals makeup. Mom's response to Trista taking the lipstick is what? So, reinforcement punishment question, okay? What are we looking for in these questions? We're looking for, did we add or remove something? We're looking for, did the behavior increase or decrease? Okay. Very important in the behavior questions that you identify the learner and you identify the correct antecedents and behaviors and consequences they're looking for. Okay. Because they're going to give you a lot of information. You're looking for the one they're asking about. They're asking about mom's response to Trista taking the lipstick. So Trista taking the lipstick, right, is the behavior. Mom taking away Trista's kit is the consequence. So the consequence of Trista taking the lipstick is what we're looking at. Now let's ask ourselves, mom taking away Trista's kit, is that adding stimuli or removing stimuli? Well, of course, that's removing stimuli. So we're going to look at a negative, right? It's either negative reinforcement or negative punishment. So for reinforcement and punishment, we ask ourselves, did the behavior increase after the consequence or did it decrease after the consequence? Remember, that's the most important thing. The consequence affects future behavior. In order to identify what the consequence is, we need to look at that future behavior and ask ourselves, did it increase or did it decrease? Well, mom took away Trista's kit, negative. Trista no longer steals makeup, behavior decreased. Therefore, we are looking at negative punishment. Okay, I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Be sure to check out rbtexamreview.com for all of our study materials. Those links will also be in the comments and descriptions below. Any questions? comments, please leave them below. I'm happy to help. Other than that, keep working hard, keep studying hard, and I will see you Wednesday.